Welcome to the Road to the Ryder Cup, hosted by Dr. Jeff Poplarski and my dad, PGA golf professional Frank Darby. Let's go USA!
Hello and welcome to the Road to the Ryder Cup. We're sponsored by a wonderful organization, the Tunnel of Towers Foundation and Mr. Frank Silla. So listen, we're going to talk a lot about them throughout our show as well. And my name is Frank Darby. I'm a PGA member for the last 42 years, and I also co-host the show on Sirius XM. My co-host on the Road to the Ryder Cup is Dr. Jeff Poplarski, and Jeff is out at Oakmont right now overseeing his performance and recovery team. So, Jeff, give us a couple of little insights what's happening out there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, great course, iconic. 10 U.S. Opens. The performance and recovery team would be very, very busy. A lot of players are coming in, caddies, and also support staff. We're in a beautiful performance center that the Oakmont Country Club built. They did a $15 million renovation on their practice facility and driving range, and we're in the performance center on the range. So we're looking forward to a great Friday and a great rest of the championship. But Frank, 105 days as the recording of the show goes to one of the most anticipated sporting events in America, the 2025 Ryder Cup. So I would like to give you a little bit of updates on what's going on at Bethpage. Number one, the 4,300 volunteers that are donating their time, all of their schedules went out. So the 26 committee chairman sent out the schedule so everybody knows what days they're working. So that took place this week. I did talk to Evan Crowder, who's the operations director for the Ryder Cup. He actually texted me this morning for the recap, and he's telling us that the Empire Suites on hole 18 are going up. The 1927 Pavilion on the left of hole number 1 is going up. The Captain's Club, the Exceller Chalets on 15 and 16 are currently going up. The Media Center, which is in the current tennis courts at Bethpage, is going up also. And next week, they'll be paving the bus terminal, media terminal, rideshare, and refurbishing the entrance to the Polo Fields roadway. So a lot of stuff going on at Bethpage. And again, we're about 105 days out. And then just back to you, Frank, in a second, but I just wanted to congratulate you for having 2 players at this year's U.S. Open. Keegan Bradley, obviously the captain of the Ryder Cup. I think he's about 43rd. And Ryan McCormick, who was on your team, I guess that was the last Big East championship you had, is actually tied for 11th. Any comments about Keegan and Ryan, Frank?
Hey, listen, I'm proud of having those two guys. And, I coached them for 4 years, 2 real great representatives of St. John's. And, I wish them all the luck. And we'll get to talk a little bit about Keegan with our guest here. And, like I said, it's going to be one of the biggest anticipated events here in New York State.
Yep. And our guest, man, I'm just, this is a guy that he's done so much for my career. Him and Greg Rose. I've thanked him a couple of times, but what he's done for my career at the U.S. Open and at Bethpage is just phenomenal. And I'm really indebted to Dave Phillips and also Greg Rose, the co-founders of TPI. But Dave Phillips is a visionary thinker. He's a world-class performance coach. He's been in the top 100 teachers in the Golf Magazine. He's been a top 50 in Golf Digest. And I guess his claim to fame today, because he is at Oakmont, he has basically been working with Jon Rahm since John's 17 years old. And I know Dave just came off the tee box to watch Jon tee off on Friday here at Oakmont. But maybe you could give us some opening comments, Dave, about Jon and about this U.S. Open.
Well, absolutely, guys. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Frank and Jeff. It's great to be with you, and thanks for all you guys do. You've done a lot for all of us as well. So don't not take the accolades, because you guys do great things as well. It's always exciting to be at a major championship. These things are special to be at, and it's really amazing, like the talent that's here this week from people that qualify, and then you've got the veterans, the guys that have been here a lot and that are the best in the world, and John's one of those for sure. His road has been different. Obviously, going to Live Golf and being on that platform has been a little bit different, a little bit changing for him. But these majors mean so much to these guys, and when they get here, it's all about keeping them in the moment, and it's all about making sure that they just know that it's just another golf tournament, even though it's not. And the more you can do that, and you can make things normal and not get all hyped up. So most of us in the performance side, we're trying to be calm, cool, and collective this week. We don't let our emotions show, even though behind the scenes, when they make a putt or miss a shot, we panic a little bit. But it's great to watch, and it's great to watch these great players come together the way they are and play this amazing golf course.
Dave, in honor of you this morning, I had a good cup of coffee with the good stuff this morning.
You did. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I love the good stuff. And we'll get to talk a little bit about that somewhere down the line here. But, I had a nice affiliation with Tim Mickelson when he was at Arizona State. He always invited us out there. So we went out there 2 times. And, they were big into ping pong. And when I had my Manhattan team out there, Jon Rahm I think he was a senior by then. And he was supposed to be, Tim was supposed to be the best ping pong player. Of course, when I had a kid that was just unbelievable, for some reason, I think Tim put a boot on and said he couldn't play. So then he put somebody else up there, and my guy kind of took care of him. But Jon Rahm, we did our serious show there. Jon Rahm took my Manhattan team out onto the range, hung out with them for an hour. Just they were in awe of just his talent and how great he was playing. And then Tim Kelly came over, and we all went out to dinner. And you know what? Nothing more than an absolute gentleman. I've always been a Rahm fan. And, like I said, definitely Phil Mickelson and his affiliation, what he did for Keegan Bradley. And like I said, I'm a big fan of Tim Mickelson. And I was kind of sad when he got out of the coaching ranks and even the caddy ranks.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. Tim's been a good friend for a long time. Obviously, I've had a close affiliation with Phil, known Phil for 20 plus years. Our kids grew up together. Our families are close. And, I have tremendous respect for him and even what he does today. I mean, people don't see behind the scenes of somebody like that. I get to, and I see all the charity stuff that he does, but I also see the man and how he gives back to all these kids. It's amazing how many people he invites over to his house to short game and chip around. And these are college kids and young kids that are in town. And it's shocking that he would go and do that, but he does that. And I think Tim, the world of Tim, and to your point, I think he was a great coach, and he definitely set the standard for John at an early stage, making him pay attention to detail. When John didn't do what he was told, he made him run the steps at Arizona Stadium, and it got John into that mode of, if to be the best, you've really got to focus and have a dedicated team around you.
Yeah, Dave, I always got a kick out of Jon Rahm talking about how he learned English by watching TV. I think that's just a phenomenal story.
Yeah, I watch TV and listen to a little rap music. So some of those songs that he listened to probably weren't the best English, but yeah, that's kind of how he did it.
Dave, just bouncing back to TPI for our viewers, TPI stands for Titleist Performance Institute. And you've created such an amazing platform to help people help golfers. You have over 36,000 certified experts in 62 countries in 10 different languages as far as the certification goes. For the viewers, if you want to excel in golf, whether you're a high handicapper or a professional, please seek out a TPI professional. It is absolutely the gold standard in performance. But Dave, did you ever think when you started with Dr. Rose, it would get to that point of 36,000 certified experts?
I really did, Jeff, and it's really fascinating to see, and it's even more impressive to see what those people that we certified have done with the information we've created and what we continue to create. And when Greg and I first started, I was a golf professional at the time in New Jersey, and then in Maryland. I was at Caves Valley Golf Club. Greg had opened the first kind of golf performance center around Washington, D.C., and I just started to spend time with this guy going, what are we doing? Back then we didn't really talk much about fitness, and and so on. And Tiger was really the one that came on the scene in '97, doing things that others weren't doing, and it made us, under the telescope, look a little bit deeper. And why aren't we all doing this? And really, it's an understanding of the body, right? I mean, to me, you have to know what your play is capable of doing if you're going to ask them to do something. So a lot of us take lessons. A lot of us want to get better at golf. And, we see the latest player or the latest swing technique, and we want to jump on and do that. But the bigger question is can you actually physically move like that person? And if you can, then have at it. If you can't, there's another way to do it. And that's the beautiful thing about coming to an event like this, standing on the driving range, going to the Ryder Cup, seeing all these different golf swings, and they still have the ability to create amazing shots. And that can be you at home as well. You can still, if you understand the right method for you, become really good at this game.
Yeah, the body swing connection, that's what I tell the people in New York at Bethpage when I'm working there. But, just some statistics, it's mind boggling. 18 of the last 20 major championships or champions have been advised by TPI experts. 25 of the top 30 official world golf rankings have been advised by TPI experts. And 48 of the Golf Digest top 50 golf professionals have been TPI people and advisory board members. So, Dave, how would our viewers find somebody, an expert in TPI, Titles Performance Institute?
Well, it's really easy, Jeff. I mean, you go to mytpi.com and you just put in your zip code, find an expert, and then you'll pop up in your area who's been TPI certified. And we have kind of different categories. Obviously, like yourself, medical category, they'll have an MP next to their name. Fitness professional will have an FP, and a golf professional will have a GP. So if you're looking for help with your swing and how it relates to your body, you'd look for a golf professional. If you want to get stronger, fitter, faster, or you're dealing with some form of ailment, then you might want to look for a professional, fitness professional, or a medical professional. A lot of us go through little ailments as we get older, and our back hurts or our hip hurts or something. And as you know, as a great provider that you are, a lot of times when we feel pain, that's not where the issue is. It's usually above it or below it. And the reason you're in pain is that area is doing more work than it should be. So a lot of people go down with back pain, and it's really not the back. We often find that when we screen the hip or the thoracic spine, it's not moving. And as a result, all the effort is going to the lower back. So the minute we put them in front of a professional like yourself, they're able to physically evaluate them, put them on a course of action, and usually get them out of that issue pretty quickly. So it's one of those things that anytime you're feeling that little niggle of pain, don't assume that that's where the problem is. It's usually above it or below it.
Dave, it's interesting. When I was coaching at St. John's, we had some issues because, hey, listen, I'm going to definitely give Jeff Poplarski credit. And I'm going to ultimately give you credit because Jeff worked with my team, came out all the time, introduced them to all the assessments and the TPI way, and we ended up winning a big East Championship that year. Definitely related to what Jeff did, but. Now it's so cool to see because I think all of these college programs throughout the country have all adopted TPI as their basis instead of, our strength and training, conditioning guys. And they were great, but it was all about running stairs. And it was like, putting the kids through punishment and kind of more like baseball and football training things. And I think that it's so cool to see where TPI has gone with college programs and even the up and coming juniors now.
Yeah, I mean, we just had the Division I NCAA championship out in California, and we had 14 teams over for the day, and they just kind of went through some of the things that we do, and we showcased what we do. And all the coaches now understand the importance of getting a good foundation. And foundation to me is the key. It's kind of like fundamentals in the golf swing. The word fundamentum in Latin means foundation, and those are the basis of where you start. Well, there's a foundation to your body. So understanding that leg strength is primary and rotation comes from ground force. So the better your leg strength, and you see some of these college athletes today. We had the Division I champion, Mike Lasasso, who's actually playing here. And if you've seen the size of his legs, I mean, he's 5'8" or 9", and he can jump 27, 28 inches vertical jump. His ground force, the way he uses the ground to create rotation and speed is phenomenal. And so, if there was one thing young kids need to realize is, and as we get older, you need to take care of your legs. Your legs are the foundation. And as we get older, the reason we lose speed is a lot of times we don't maintain our glute strength. Hips get tight because we're sitting all day and we don't maintain our leg strength. So if you want to keep your speed when you get older, you need your legs. So make sure you do some leg work, keep those glutes moving and those hips moving.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts just to go back. He who follows the point of pain is lost. I love what you said about the back pain, and it might be coming from some other area. And that's really changed my career around because I use that philosophy a lot in my office. And a lot of people come in with the back pain, but it's coming from the thoracic spine or maybe from the hips. Patients get a little confused because I start treating the mid back. They're like, no, but my pain is in the lower back. And I'm like, it's really not coming from there. That's number one. And the other thing, a few years ago, Dave, I know at LACC, you were kind enough to send to my hotel the 4 wellness products, which I guess you and Phil together are partners. Tell us about those products and how that started.
Well, you know what? I mean, I think you know this, Jeff, but I was born in England. I was actually raised in Kenya in Africa. And from a young age, my dad used to wake me up and take me out to the game reserve. And I remember him giving me my first cup of coffee when I was 6 years old. He said, don't tell your mother that I'm giving you coffee, but this is the best thing you'll ever drink. And it tasted terrible at the time, but it was that connection with my dad that I had. And I had this coffee journey throughout my life as a performance coach. So wherever I went, I would search out different types of coffees. And I learned as a hobby about coffee. And then when Phil was stricken with arthritis, I started to study because I'm around so many professional athletes and great trainers and nutritionists, just different products that might help with inflammation. And I noticed he drank coffee. He used to love my coffee when I made it for him. So I'm like, what if I make some stuff that we can put in coffee instead of creamers and stuff that would actually be healthy? And we created this product called the Good Stuff, and it's really MCT powder, collagen. It's got some Himalayan rock salt in it, which smooths out the bitterness in coffee. Something called L-theanine that stops caffeine from giving you the jitters. And then we have a cinnamon flavor and a mocha flavor. And started giving it to Phil, and lo and behold, he was like, this is incredible. I absolutely love this. And by the way, the MCT powder makes me feel full in the morning. I don't feel like eating as much. Started to lose some weight. And before you know it, we got connected to a guy in the coffee business and we started a company. We weren't going to try and start a company. I was doing it for a hobby. So we have this product called the Good Stuff, which is an additive you put in coffee that makes it taste great and gives your coffee a boost. And then I created a couple of other things, a little energy bite that you can have in between your rounds, or really for 10 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock. It's that little gap stop between breakfast and lunch when you're a little bit hungry, but it's very healthy. And then I created this line of gummies, which are called recovery gummies, and they all have a purpose, right? They all have electrolytes in them. But one of the purposes is one is for inflammation for your joints, one is for hydration, and one is for focus. And that has really kind of taken off. And so I didn't plan to do this. I got enough going on, but I'm so excited I did because I've learned a lot about the business side, and it's amazing how many guys out here are using our products and love it. And we've created kind of like this healthy line of good stuff.
Cool. Hey, listen, we're talking with Dave Phillips from TPI, Jeff Poplarski, and Frank Darby. We'll be right back. We got to do a little bit from our sponsor, Tunnel of Towers Foundation.
We just had a plane crash into level 4 of the World Trade Center.
I get a phone call by a firefighter. He said, nobody's coming home. And I said, I think that we need to do something to honor, what Stephen did and what everybody else did that day. And we pieced everything that he ran through the tunnel and stuff. We figured that's what he did, tunnel to towers. He ran through the tunnel to the towers where he gave up his life. We, as Americans, better be there to take care of these families that left behind. That's why we make sure as a foundation that we take care of those Gold Star families and fallen first responder families that have young children left behind.
Okay, welcome back to the Road to the Ryder Cup. And hey, we're getting a lot of great information from Dave Phillips from the Titleist Performance Institute. Hey, Dave, can we just go on for a little bit about the mental wellness part of TPI, if we can talk about that?
Yeah, so it's a factor in everything we do, right? It's getting yourself focused and prepared. And on the mental side, I always believe that if you have a very clear plan and you have a good team around you, it's easier to be mentally clear. Where mental comes in for us is there's so much information out there today, and there's so many things readily available through your mobile device, whether it's be on social media or YouTube. And a lot of times we want to try it all. We're being bombarded with different pieces of information. And it's very easy for young players or any of us to lose track of focus of what we should be doing. And this is why you want to build a group of people around you that not only have your back, but understand your goals and what you're trying to achieve and build you a plan. And as long as you stick to that plan, it's no different than developing a recipe when, you make some food. If you've got a good recipe, it turns out great every time. If you keep messing with it, sometimes it doesn't turn out that good. And that's where the mental side comes in.
Dave, I think it's really cool these days with social media. Hey, there's a lot of issues with social media, but I wish I had access when I was growing up because as you talk to all of these great players and people like you, we get so much great information. In the past, nobody ever said anything. Like Jack would give us a couple of, some stuff and Arnold Palmer, but, everybody's got a website. Everybody kind of loves to just talk about what they're doing. And like you said, what's the plan? Who are they working with? And what are they working on? So you can take a little bit from each kind of guy. And I tell you what, I learned an awful lot just by listening to Phil Mickelson.
Yeah, well, the thing is you need to have a great filter. So I'm not saying don't watch or listen because you're right. It's a learning curve like we've never seen. But you need to really have a good idea of where you are and where you're trying to go. And you got to be able to filter. And if you don't think that Phil or John is looking at social media and watching what other people do, they are. I mean, Jon Rahm has a photographic memory. He can remember who won this tournament in 1997 and what they hit on the last three holes. It is insane. You go to Ryder Cup, which we're here to talk about. On the Ryder Cup, it is insane, like how much John knows about past Ryder Cups and what Seve did and what Sergio did and how they prepared. He just has this incredible ability of recall. So, that can be extremely valuable, but you've also got to know how it fits within your world so you don't get paralyzed by it. And that's why I think it's good to have teams around elite level players.
For our viewers here, talking about mental. So Dave's here doing this interview on our podcast, but his player, Jon Rahm, just teed off about a half hour ago. How are you keeping it together talking to us with your player out there competing for the national championship?
Yeah, listen, it's out of my control. I mean, John is he's prepared. He's did what he needed to do to get ready for this tournament. And you got to have luck to win a major championship. You really do. And the way the golf course is set up, you can hit really good shots and end up in bad places, and you can hit bad shots and end up in good places. And that's what happens in all of golf, but it's more under the magnifier here because it's a par 70 golf course. The rough is severe. If you miss it, you're chipping out. And the greens are severe. So it's not even a gimme if you hit the green, and so there's really there's no holes. You've got to be prepared that you're going to make bogeys, but there's birdies out there. And, there's always, so every player is going to have 4 or 5 birdies that they know they can make. At this level, they're all capable of it. So if you have a double bogey or a bogey, you've got 5 birdies coming. They're out there. You can find them if you play those holes right. But you just got to hang on for the ride. And, what happens in tournaments like this is, the worst thing is you get behind the 8 ball early and you try to push. Because if you then try to push, it maximizes the errors. Whereas the really good guys, they may be 2 or 3 or 4 over, but they know that if they just stay the course, even if they finish, I mean, yesterday 4 over was about middle of the pack. Today, the cut line will probably be 7 or 8 over par, and you'll make the cut, which sounds ridiculous, right? Any tournament, we usually turn on the TV, and if you're not 4 or 5 under, you're not making the cut. 7 over might be the cut here today.
Hey Dave, so like this morning, I saw you, talking with Jon Rahm before he teed off. What do you guys talk about? I mean, everybody talks about different things. I'm sure you keep it as simple as you can. And how's he feeling going in there? Because I was proud of how he played in the Masters, and I think he got some criticism for down the stretch. But it's the Masters. I mean, and it happens.
Yeah. So that was the PGA you're probably referring
I'm
to,
sorry,
where
the PGA.
yeah, and again, like that's how I would have expected John to play. And just going back to that for a minute, he got himself into contention where he had actually tied the lead, but he knew Scotty had a couple of easy holes coming up that he didn't manage to birdie. So he was one down with 3 to go, and he steps on the 16 tee box. He knows Scotty's going to birdie one of the next 2, which means in John's mind, he's 2 down with 3 to go. He's trying to birdie 2 of the last 3. He's not trying to play for second place. And that's the beauty of someone like Jon Rahm, is that he's going to go for it. And that's what great players do. They don't look back and worry that, hey, I made a double, but I made 2 doubles and a bogey coming in. But just, here today on the driving range, you're really just trying to get your player to talk to you and see where his emotions are, and get him in that right state of mind. I don't have to say anything to John to get him fired up to play golf. He is ready, right? So to me, it's just being a listening board and a sounding board. We usually watch everything. Nowadays, it's all on your phone. I can watch every swing. So even though I'm talking to you guys, I'll be going back and looking at every swing and seeing if I see anything. And, if we walk off at the end of the round, the first person I talk to is Adam, his caddy, because he's the guy holding the bag. He's the guy giving the clubs. He has more insight into John's brain and why he hits certain shots. So for me to go, oh, what did you do on 10 when you missed it to the right? Well, if you talk to Adam, he was like, actually, he hit it straight. The wind just pushed it to the right. So, you want to talk to the caddy right away after the round.
Hey, Dave, I'm sure that, and you mentioned John's caddy, Adam. Do you deal with, and the caddies are a vital part. Do you deal with them when you have a conference or a meeting with your
Absolutely.
player?
Absolutely. I mean, the caddy role today is probably one of the key components in any team, and getting the right person, because a good caddy really does give you point whatever of a shot around. And, they're the ones that they have to take control in these situations. You don't want a caddy when you made a double or you've hit it in the rough 3 times in a row that's going to, just be quiet and let you fester. You need someone to step in that situation, calm you down, make you realize that it's a U.S. Open and that you're okay. Everybody's got to deal with the same thing. I mean, I saw Scotty Scheffler and Victor Hovland and Jordan Spieth, one of the best putters in the world, miss 2-foot putts yesterday. It's going to happen, and you're going to do it too. So don't think it's just you. There's lots of people dealing with the same golf course in the same conditions, having the same issues as you. You just got to see where you are with 9 holes to go and hope you've got a chance.
Hey, Dave, I grew up caddying, as a lot of us did. I think there needs to be another word, not caddy. I think, and player assistant is not going to be it, but we need to think of another word for what those guys, like you said, what they do out there and how involved they are in their success.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I mean, I grew up caddying too, and a lot of times the connotation of a caddy is, oh, it's either a young guy at a club doing it for a few bucks, or it's an old guy that's had too much in the bar and he's looking for something to get. But nowadays these guys are professional athletes. I mean, they're no different than us coaches. They are coaches. They, not only do they carry the bag, but their yardages, their ability to look at technology, like all the radar devices, set those up. A lot of them understand aim point and go to school on putting. A lot of them understand. They do way more than you can imagine. And by the way, they are in just as good shape, if not better shape, than a lot of the players are, because I was at the British Open last year and Adam's flight was late and I had to carry John's bag for 18 holes in the practice round. And I thought I was going to die when I was walking up 18. Not only did my back hurt, I needed Jeff there. Not only did my back hurt, I was hunched over, and I consider myself in pretty good shape. I'm like, I can't believe you're carrying this 60-pound bag that's got, and at the British, you got to have rain gear, every kind of weather gear. And the bag was so heavy. And these guys pick it up like it's a feather. It's unbelievable, like how strong they are.
Yeah, Dave, we started this performance and recovery team in 2002 at Bethpage because we heard that the caddies really weren't getting like good treatment on the tour bad parking, bad food. They were like second-class citizens. We approached the USGA in 2002 and said, listen, we'll give the same amenities that we're giving players to the caddies. And now that we treat more caddies than we do players at the U.S. Open. It's reverse at the senior events. We see more players than caddies, but we have a very soft spot for caddies because they're going through a lot too.
They are, and to your point, you do an amazing job here with your team, and what you do for the caddies doesn't go everybody talks about it to me, how great it is, and even a lot of the players. I mean, I've seen players in your place because you've got better setup than they do up at some of these clubs. So you've really done an amazing job, Jeff, and that thing that you've created. What a great team of people you have. So congratulations on that. It's awesome.
Thanks for the kind words. But, Dave, before we get into the Ryder Cup, I know Greg and you have always said this, that the two most advanced, technologically savvy sports are golf and also Formula One car racing. I just wanted to ask you two questions about that because I know you're involved with Formula One and also Navy SEALs. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So, Formula One to me, you don't think of those guys as athletes. They're sitting in a car, but that car is doing 200 miles an hour, and the mental load, the amount of weight, the strength that they have to have in their core, their neck, the G forces, their hands, their forearms, and their eyes, and how they look. So there's something called Formula Medicine, which is a group of people out of Virago, Italy, that work with Formula One. And I noticed that they were doing some things as I was trying to help my players in golf that we weren't doing. And so I went and visited them, and they do a lot of mental acuity training and a lot of visual training. And, obviously when you're driving a car fast, vision is huge. And you wouldn't think vision is huge in golf, but it is, because we do a lot of eye testing today, not only for green reading, but it's decision making. They have a lot of decisions to make. When you're standing on the first tee and you've got the club in your hand, you got to decide on the trajectory of the shot, the shape of the shot. You've got to decide on the wind, how far you want this to go, where you want it to land. The faster you can come to that conclusion, the quicker you can get into your routine and commit to the shot. So we actually studied vision through learning what we did from Formula One in terms of committing. And so Formula One gave me that. On the Navy SEAL front, I mean, being in San Diego, we have SEAL Team 3 there, and we have the sniper units there. And one of the SEALs is a great friend of mine who wrote the sniper training manual. I had him come out and teach me how to shoot. And actually, Phil Mickelson did this as well. And it was all about sighting a target and controlling your breath. And I thought, well, how pertinent is that to golf? Is that committing to your target and then controlling your breath so that you can perform at your highest level? And, all of our special forces and anybody in the military, I can't thank them enough for what they do and what they go through. And Phil is huge behind that. If you see on the bottom of his bag, he carries bunkers for Baghdad, but he's also supported so many. What most people don't realize is his father, who was an amazing gentleman, was a fighter pilot in the Air Force, and an incredible fighter pilot. In fact, I think he even flew for like the Blue Angels. And I think you can see why Phil is the way he is preparation-wise, because of where he came from. And you can see the comments he makes about the military and his support from the military, because he knows what his dad and all those great people do.
Hey, Dave, Dave, if I could just ask you about you've been to 7 Ryder Cups and you've been heavily involved the last 2, especially with Jon Rahm being on that Ryder Cup team. Do you give other guys information as well? Are you part of the Ryder Cup scenario there for the European team?
Yeah, so Luke Donald last year for sure, and Luke has been amazing in the way he goes about his preparation, as all the captains do. They've got great support, but I love the way that he's involved a lot of the player support people and brought us into the mix. Kind of like before, we were just kind of side items. We did our job and got out of the way. But he has been really open to sitting us down and asking what we need, which is great, because he knows that we've got long days too. I remember the Ryder Cup at Whistling Straits. I've got a great picture of John on the putting green at 5:30 a.m. in the morning with the sun just coming up behind us. And, he's playing 2 matches that day. I think we got to the golf course at 3:45 a.m. and we left at 9 p.m. And you got to go back and prepare. I mean, people don't realize if you're playing twice and what you have to go through from warm up to cool down to eating in between to resting. These are huge, huge days that put a huge toll. And so the captains have been, they just get better and better. It's amazing.
You know, Dave, it was interesting, and I watched this on YouTube all the time, just what Luke Donald set up there when he went on a tour of the players where they were hanging out in the whole players' room and the motivation that was behind it. I thought it was brilliant last year, or 2 years ago, I'm sorry. And I think it's going to be, I think Keegan Bradley is going to be interesting to see what Keegan does this year because him and Luke are close. And I think Keegan will feel, feed off that motivational thing that Luke did.
Well, I do too. And, if you think about Keegan Bradley and how he played when he was paired with Phil Mickelson and how Phil kind of brought him into the realm because Keegan, we've often seen his like little nervous twitch as he gets over it. But believe me, he is a competitor and he loves that competition. And you can see that when you're around him, you can see his focus level with what he does with his coach now, Darren May, and how he practices and prepares. And I think he'll bring that same intensity to the Ryder Cup.
Dave, what they're doing at Bethpage is they're putting 2 team rooms identical in the parking lot. It's going to be tented structures, and that's going to be kind of like player hospitality. And they're going to put physios in there, and I'm sure you're going to have access to go there. And they're also staying at the Garden City Hotel, which is about 5-6 miles from the course. And both teams are going to be staying there, and they're going to be motorcaded from Garden City to Bethpage. Tell us about the setups maybe at these other Ryder Cups for you, like we see here at the U.S. Open with the physios and the tables. Is it similar to the Ryder Cup? Did Luke give you that type of area too?
Yeah, we have some access. I mean, obviously, we don't have the access that everybody else has, and I get it. It's a busy time, and with families being part of it, they can't give access to everybody. I love the fact that they let us walk inside the ropes. It's very difficult for us in a coaching capacity, even at this tournament here, because we can't really walk with our players. I mean, this is the one sport where you don't get to watch your player play. Any other sport, NHL, NBA, the coaches are on the sideline watching their player play. And, even in tennis now, you can actually talk to your coach during the tournament. And in golf, we kind of pushed back in the out of the way, and it's very difficult to support your player in a role when they're out playing, which is tough for us as coaches. And I would like to see them actually make a bit of a change where, players were allowed to have, whether it's a significant other or a coach, if they want, inside the ropes. I mean, we know where to walk. We're not going to be in the way. And I think we can add valuable insight to our player by watching them play, and it would make them better. I think the Ryder Cup is an unusual scenario. There's a lot of people there. It's very intense. For 3 days a year, these guys hate each other. They don't hate each other. They love each other, but there is animosity, and you saw it in Italy. I saw it, Whistling Straits. And, what I would say is, golf is still a sport. These people are still human beings. And I don't like the personal attacks. I think we're all fans and we all love it. But, I would encourage fans out there that are going and watching to understand that these are still people and they have families and they have kids out there following. So, some of the remarks that you get on both sides, on both countries, I don't like. I don't like it getting to that level because I just think it's wrong. But that's just me. It's sport, and sport tends to bring out that.
Dave, I kind of miss Sevi Ballesteros out there because he definitely was an instigator out there. And I love some of those feuds he had with, coins in his pocket and coughing in the backswing. And him and Azinger didn't get along. But I think now it's kind of interesting because 3/4 of the Ryder Cup team from Europe lives in Orlando, Jupiter right now.
Well, you're right. It is pretty amazing. They do live together. A lot of them travel a little bit more together. They have a lot of camaraderie, and this is the thing with golf is that in many ways, this is the difference between live golf. I mean, I go to live golf today. There's teams, and those teams create a bond, and they're together, and they travel together, and they eat together, and they talk. And, it can be very lonely on the PGA Tour for a young player. Like some of these young players come out, they don't know anybody. They don't really know if they belong. And I think Ryder Cup, for the first time, you're part of a team. And some players gel really well. I think actually the Euros do a little bit better job of coming together as a team, um, only because they did that in Europe, and they tend to be maybe they have more in common. They watch soccer, or their soccer team plays against each other, and that's a very much a team sport. So I think in many ways there is a little bit more of that come together maybe with the Europe, but the U.S. team, listen, all these guys play together all the time, and it's amazing what it brings out. The Ryder Cup is one of my favorite events. I think one of the coolest things about the Ryder Cup, honestly, is the amount of incredible shots that are hit, the hole outs, the almost hole outs. These are shots you never see. You don't see these every day, and they're right there. And it's just that aspect of team competition where you're playing for something bigger. You're playing for your country. You're playing for it's amazing. This was like the Olympic Games. I got to be at the Olympic Games this year for Spain with Jon and Dave Phillips, who I coach. And that was another event that I've never really been an Olympic coach before. But man, oh man, how great that was too. And those type of team coming together things are really, really cool.
Dave, besides John and a few other players that you're dealing with, do you have any young prospects that maybe are future Ryder Cuppers that you're working with?
I would think David Puig is a young player from Spain, went to ASU. I think the world of him. He's a great kid. He's an amazing talent. He's got tremendous speed. And he's playing really well on Live this year. He's on the Live. He's on Sergio's team. He's learning a lot from those players. So, for a young kid going to something like a Live team, they can actually excel very quick because they get to play with major champions very early. You're a young player that comes to some of the PJ Tour. Unless you're really good, you're not going to get paired with the best guys. The pairings don't match that way. TV doesn't want that. But at Live, you do get paired with them. And I remember David playing with Cam Smith and Brooks Koepka in one of his first events. And, first thing I asked him is, how cool is this? And he's like, it's amazing. And I go, well, what did you learn? Because if you're out there with these guys, and he goes, I learned what I need to do to get better. And if you look at him, he's been out of college now for 3 years. He played in all the majors, but the Masters last year. He had a little bit of an injury coming up recently, but he played in the PJ Championship this year and wasn't able to qualify for this one because of the injury. But he's one of those players that I think you should watch for in the future. He's exceptional talent. If you ask about short games, John will say, and Phil Mickelson will say, that he's got as good a short game as Seve. It's amazing how good it is. So I'm excited about him and for what he might bring to the future European team.
Awesome. Dave, the Tunnel to Towers is our official sponsor of the podcast. So we have these leather-wrapped whiskey glasses. We'd like to maybe get your address and maybe send it out to Oceanside.
That's amazing.
As a little gift for you. You can listen to our viewers. You can please listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, X, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Like, share, collaborate, love, repost the podcast. We'd appreciate that.
Dave, one more comment I'm going to make about you right there is I think you need a name change for this good stuff. It should be the great stuff. And I've got a craving right now. And the worst thing about it is I'm out of coffee. So I'm going to go get some more great stuff right now. But hey, Dave, thank you for coming on. And you know what? Between the two of us, we've got about 75 years in the PGA of America. So I'm proud to talk to another PGA member as well. And, I keep looking down because I'm writing a whole lot of notes down from what, you've said here. So, again, thank you for all the great information. And it's just seeing, you're a legend.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Dave, and just closing comments for me. It's TPI has really done a lot for me. I got to where I am with the USGA because of TPI, because in those early meetings with the USGA, I was proud to tell them that I'm TPI certified. And some of the USGA staff recognize, well, wow, that is the gold standard. And that really propelled me to where I am in my career. So I can't thank you enough for that.
Thanks,
and you and Greg have just been absolutely fantastic. So we're wishing you the best of luck. It'd be great to see you on national TV on Sunday with the U.S. Open trophy. Like I saw you at the Masters when you won. That was great too. So,
That was
well, we
pretty cool.
really appreciate your time, and I know you're really busy there at the Open, and we'll see you shortly, my friend.
Thank
Okay,
you, Dave.
guys. Thanks so much. Peace.
Bye-bye.